quarterback this year than we saw last year. He's really efficient, and he's not afraid of. He wants the ball. He's got the, I don't know, the it factor, I guess you could say. But I don't know what to expect. I mean, we're going there. It's all over their field. They're playing at 72-44 or whatever the heck it says. I don't think that's going to really matter at all. I mean, 5,000, what's another 2,000 feet? I don't know. I mean, for a guy like me that's a little hefty, I mean, that sucks because when we were there and we had to walk up the steps to the press box, it affected me, but I'm not a Division I athlete. So anyway, but I don't think that's going to affect anything. I haven't looked at the weather. I have no idea what the weather's supposed to be like.
I think the weather's pretty good.
This is supposed to be decent. I mean, Brian Hill's not going to, I've never seen a running back like Pumphrey. That guy can go laterally and then one step and he's like one or two steps and he's at full speed already,
Mm-hmm.
And Brian Hill, you can't let him get going. So our defensive line is going to have to play big. The linebackers are going to have to play big. And the one thing that really frustrated me, I said I wasn't going to talk about San Diego State, but I'm going to talk about it. What really frustrated me is they'd run the toss sweep, and they'd run it 2 or 3 times in a row. And it's like, man, I'm watching my high school team because that's exactly what we do until they could stop it. Well, no team could ever stop it, and Utah State wasn't stopping it. But I just couldn't understand why they didn't go cover 0 and, say, hey, you know what? Corners, you're on your own. There's going to be one safety in the back and bring everybody up. And then if we're going to get beat by the pass, we're going to get beat by the pass. And it just didn't seem to ever really happen, And I just think with Wyoming, I hope our philosophy is a little bit different. They do have a few athletes at receiver that are pretty decent.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know what Jalen Davis is. I haven't heard any reports on him. I don't know what's going on with him. I'm assuming he's not going to play this week. But I have full confidence. And Gray's been playing. He had, the first, 3 or 4 games, he was playing lights out. Then he kind of slid off or whatever. I don't know what happened. But he, and then Bailey, he's going to have to grow up. I mean, if it's him on the other side or if it's going to be Haney, and Haney will probably see more of the action, I'm thinking. And I think Haney had, a few good games. So I just think they got to stop Hill. They got to stop the guy. And I think Dallin Levitt said after the San Diego State game, he came out and said that he thinks Hill's probably the best overall running back in Mountain West. And that's just after Pumphrey put up 230 yards or something like that on our home field. He set a record for opponent rushing yards.
Right.
So that's kind of, and I don't know what Levitt meant by that. I'm not sure if he just meant just the physicality of him and, I don't know, his overall package or whatever. I'm not sure what he meant by it, but I've always liked Brian Hill. But it's going to be a battle. And, I mean, Utah State, if they're still interested in going to a bowl at all, they got to win 3 out of 4. And 3 out of 4 are on the road. So, I mean, they got to win a road game. They haven't won one all year. So, they got to whatever's got to happen they got to step up. And like you said about offensive line play, it's just not. It's been very, very mediocre, and it really drives me nuts because I've always had the mentality that you build the team from the inside out, defensive line, offensive line, and then you just go out from there. You got to have some horses.
Do you think
and some studs.
Do you think the defensive line has played very well?
No, I don't. I really don't. I mean, Taufa, I think that's how you say his name. He's had a couple of good games. He's been playing a lot better than I thought, but
somebody's got to do something. I mean, the defensive ends.
Yeah,
defensive ends have been really disappointing. They
have, and it just doesn't. I don't know like Ricky. I mean, I guess I expected a lot more,
Right.
out of him, and I'm assuming he's expected a lot more out of himself,
Right.
the production that he's had. But I'd hope, and Seafeld, it seems like there's disruption in the middle, but he'll just like miss open tackles, and I'm not going to say that it's rust from last year, because I mean, they've played enough games now that should be done and over with, and he's played enough football in his career that should be done and over with. But
Right.
I'm just not. I don't know. We're moving a lot of guys in and out, and it's just not. I'm not too impressed,
No,
with our
it's
defensive
not
or
about
offensive.
it's not about the amount of sacks or about the amount of tackles with our 3 down linemen.
Nope.
You can just tell. You can just tell whether they're getting blown off the line or not blown off the line, and they're getting blown off the line. I
Well, in a
mean,
lot
it
of
was
ways, you can
obvious against
tell.
Air Force. It was obvious against San Diego State, and
Yeah, I mean, a good way to look at it is look at the stats of the linebackers. Really, how many sacks have they got? How many tackles for loss have they got? Because if the defensive line's doing their job, their numbers are going to increase. You know what I mean? Because they're commanding double teams and freeing up the linebacker. You know what I mean? So they can make plays.
yeah, that's their
And
job.
I just don't, and I haven't broke it down. I wish Brian was on. He always has good information like that, but it's just not. I don't know. I've just been, and I'm not going to harp on the defense too much, just because they don't. What was the time of possession last week? I mean, if the offense just has the ball for a minute and a half, and then they expect the defense to go out there for another 15-play drive, you know what I mean? And I know, well, the defense didn't make plays, they didn't make plays, but good grief, man. They're human just like anybody else. They bleed like everybody else, and they have lungs like everybody else, and they get gassed. I mean, when the other team's got the ball for 15, 20 minutes longer than you do, I mean, if your offense isn't doing its part, it's pretty hard, And I don't know. The offense just, I can't make an excuse for them. I just don't. I don't know what the deal is. I honestly do not know what the problem is. Besides poor play, I mean, they're just mediocre play, poor play. Other than that,
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, people can blame it on their play calling and all that stuff, but
you can say Wells got away from the recruiting blueprint and blah 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 blah. Well, look at the defensive line. Polynesian, return missionaries.
Yeah.
Utah,
look at
state of Utah
Larson.
Guys. So
Derek Larson, a Utah guy that walked on. I mean, they have the same guys.
Line.
And people just got to understand that just because you go by the blueprint, not every single player is going to be a Nick Vigil or a Zach Vigil, or a BJ Larson, or, you know what I mean? You're not going to find them. You hope to get a few of those guys, you know what I mean?
Right.
That go under the radar and they develop and everything, but that's the problem with being a Utah State type of school, is because a lot of the players you get are developmental guys. They're not guys that are going to come in like Rayshaw did. I mean, that kid, he had a lot of offers. He could have went a lot of places, and he'd be playing there too, I think, because he's good enough.
Absolutely, yeah.
But you're not going to – you got to get guys – you're going to miss. You're going to miss on guys. You're going to miss on JUCO guys. I mean, people got to remember, JUCO guys, they're going against other JUCO guys. It's not like they're playing against Division I talent. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And just because Alex Byers hasn't contributed a ton this year doesn't mean it's not going to, it's not going to be.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
you can't look at it. Well, fall camp. Why aren't some of these junior college guys contributing? That's weird. Because they're junior college guys. That's what happens. I expect a guy that's been in the program 2 years or even 1 year to beat out a JC guy. That's the way I look at it. I look at Chase Christiansen as is a guy who should be starting at linebacker. He should be contributing at linebacker because he's been here a couple of years. So it's not weird that he beat out Patrick Miranda, who came in as a JC guy. That's not weird at all. That doesn't mean Patrick Miranda is a bad player either. It just means that he hasn't been in the program very long, and Chase Christiansen has been in the program and is a good player. He got recruited as a high school player for a reason. He got signed, to come here for a reason. He's a good player, so he has a lot of potential. So let's go through some of these answers to our question before we run out of time. On Twitter, we asked what you want to see from the Wyoming game, and so kind of going in reverse order, but whatever. So B. Den said, I just want to see Wells actually try something else. Kind of a good point. Aggie PT said, a win? Question mark. Aggie Fan 444 said, a new OC calling plays. I don't know how much difference that's going to make, but I wouldn't be opposed to it. Tyler Huskinson said, proof of life. JJ says not to watch the other team. You have a good point, but also... Oh, that's a different tweet. To be fair, I think... Okay. Utah Stizzle says, Mays tearing it up, D finally forcing some turnovers, Aggies playing spoiler. Obviously, that would be best case scenario. Obviously, a win. And Mays and the running game coming into form would be a good thing. Casey Corney says Hobbs getting a chance to open up the playbook, or getting a chance to play. Obviously, opening up the playbook, play with some fire and passion. Pretty good points, all three. Beefy El Stallion says Damian Hobbs for more than just a run package. So obviously, I assume he means either starting Damian Hobbs or bringing in Damian Hobbs. At this point, I mean, there's quite a few that say we want to see Damian Hobbs. At this point, there's really no reason not to. I get that you want to win out, and I get that you want to get to a bowl game, and you think Myers is the better player, and I think Myers is the better player. But if Myers doesn't play well against Wyoming, then that momentum or that train is really going to pick up steam, because at that point it's a little bit it's even more difficult to get bowl eligible and everything. So Sam McConkey says some fire and desire. David Westerberg, a new starting quarterback. U State 5 need to match their run game, need Mays to have a big game, open up the pass game. D-line and linebackers need to step up. So yeah, I mean, obviously if Utah State could run the ball on Saturday, if Utah State can stop the run, and if Utah State can come out with some fire, I think it would be... There's no reason that Utah State can't beat Wyoming. In my opinion, and we'll just move on to this, in my opinion, one of the keys to the game, along with just turning around the offensive line and turnover issue that we've had the last 15 games, one of the keys is just obviously to score a lot of points. I mean, I don't see Wyoming, coming in and only scoring a couple touchdowns. I see Utah State giving up some points. So Utah State's going to have to get some turnovers. They're going to have to put up some points to beat Wyoming. And last year we saw it firsthand. Wyoming, especially with the backup quarterback in there, they ran the ball pretty successfully, and they didn't really explode offensively. And Utah State kind of just held them in check. But Utah State scored 47 points or whatever. Utah State scored pretty easily in that game as well. So they were able to take some of those long runs by Hill and take some of those scores from Wyoming, even though they didn't have a perfect game defensively, but they were able to win the game, obviously. So, what are your keys to the Wyoming game, Seth?
I